as has April from the training and technical assistance team. And I see that we've got Carrie Burgraff on as well. To the federal government. We'll give it one more minute. I see that we have it looks like Tony Ashton is on as well. As is Barbara Adams-Murray. And we have, it looks like Dana Fields Johnson from the PI team as well. To get us kicked off, I just want to thank you all for making time for this virtual learning community. Really, one of the things that we are going to focus on today is really training and technical assistance resources related to completing the final deliverables for the project. Focusing on sustainability, looking at our current progress, and then also really focusing on the CCIM4C Summit and in the community breakout sessions. So I think what we want to do is start with any updates or any sharing that any of you may have, and you're welcome to go ahead and unmute. Looks like Leanne Watson is typing. Give her a minute. Great, and she's able to join after reloading the Adobe. I think I don't hear a lot of announcements, which is okay. I don't know that at this point we have anyone on from Ohio Moss. I know that they've been pulled in a number of directions related to some other meetings, and it's legislative day as well. So why don't we move forward? And I want to introduce Tessa Miracle, and she's working on Ohio's SafeRx Collaborative. Tessa, would you like to take it here from here for a minute?
Yeah, for sure. Can you all hear me?
Yes, Tessa, we can.
Well, oh, great. Thank you. Well, my name is Tessa Miracle, and I want to thank you all for giving me a few minutes of your agenda time. I know that your time is very precious, but I really wanted to share this opportunity with each of you. Ohio SafeRx Collaborative is comprised of 3 parent organizations. We have Interact for Change, Prevention Action Alliance, and Summit County Community Partnership. And we have been graciously funded by the Department of Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services. And we have been funded to achieve a few goals. We want to increase access to safe prescription disposal for all Ohioans. How we are achieving this goal is distributing 40,000 prescription drug disposal pouches throughout the state of Ohio. while we are distributing these pouches, we are also providing some educational resources for you all to take advantage of. There's also a bit of technical assistance, and there's an evaluation opportunity involved in this project as well. So as you've been working through your strategic plans, I know that all of you are very high capacity groups and coalitions. We wanted to make sure that you were aware of this no cost opportunity. So we have opened up an application for these resources. I don't want anyone to feel shy or turned off by the application process. We just ask a few questions. We want to know a little bit of the background of your coalition, what your distribution plans are, and any questions that you may have or anything that you may need for us to support you in this process. You can access this application as well as some of our educational materials. The rest of them will be updated in March at ohioarcsdisposal.com. It lives on its own tab, which is the Safe Arcs Collaborative tab. As you go through, you'll see the background of the project, a little bit of the information, and there's a big red box that says apply here. If you use that link, applications are being approved within 2 business days right now, and then we are shipping within 2 weeks. It's sort of our timeline in this process. So if you have identified a need for prescription disposal pouches in your community, this might help you meet your goals for your community. And I do want to backtrack for a second. For those of you who are maybe not as familiar with the prescription drug disposal pouches, we are using the pouches from Verde Technology. These are environmentally sound. They keep prescription drugs out of our water system, and then they also deactivate the substance put into the bag, so you don't have to worry about them being in your garbage and maybe a pet or a small child getting into your garbage as well. This project does run through September of 2019, so I cannot urge you strongly enough to get out there, get your applications in. Once you have applied and used your pouches, you're more than welcome to reapply if you would like. If you run through your current supply, we are approving quantities of 200, 400, 600, and 1,000 right now. So we really wanted to meet the communities where they are and the capacity they have for distribution. If you guys have any questions about the collaborative or the process, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm sure my contact information is here, and then also on ohioarcsdisposal.com, there's a contact form. So in case you get on there and you start having a couple questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
And just a friendly reminder that we did have Daryl Brake from Summit County Partnership talk about the deterra bags. And if you go on the Collective Impact website, that far right, when you have our 30-minute webinars, you'll see the deterra bag webinar up there. And then we're in the process of getting Tessa. Tessa talked about this project as well, so you'll have more information. And just to clarify, Tessa, the project directors, if they choose to use deterra bags as a strategy, can get those at no cost to their projects through you?
Yes, thank you for clarifying. There is no cost for this at all. And you also will have access to these educational resources that are designed in a manner that you can customize with your own coalition logo and have, some tips and tricks to talk to community members about prescription drug disposal.
So at this time, if you would like to open up your line to ask Tessa questions or put some questions in the chat box, that would be great. We only have Tessa for a short period of time here at the beginning, so we want to make sure that you have all of your needs met from her.
Thank you, Holly.
I see some questions coming in through the chat box, Tessa, so if you could just hang on with us for a minute, that would be great.
Oh, of course, thank you.
Joanna says, are all of your resources free and available to download and reproduce for distribution?
Yes, all of the resources and all the printables that we're currently working with a design firm, so those will be available in mid-March. They will be available for you to download, reproduce as you'd like, and then also co-brand. Thank you.
And Joanna says thank you very much. And I'm just pausing to see if there's any other last questions for Tessa. Tessa, we really appreciate you joining us today. And as I mentioned, you can check out Tessa's presentation on the SPIF or CCIM4C website, as well as going to the OhioRxDisposal.com website. And she will continue to be a resource for you if that's a strategy that your community chooses. Thanks, Tessa. Have a good
Awesome.
day.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for letting us present. You have a great day.
As we turn back to our virtual learning community together, you have the learning objectives and they were on your agenda. We hope that you continue to develop as project directors through our learning community environments. Remember, you can unmute your phone to share as well as type in the chat box at any time. What we hope to do today is really focus on those final deliverables. We know that April 30th is closing in on all of us pretty quickly, as Friday is March 1st. We also are going to introduce the CCIM4C sustainability module. This will be a little bit different because you are all at such different points in your project. We made the decision to do it as sort of an independent study. That's a good way to think of it, that all of the learning materials are on the website so you can access them asynchronously on your own time, and we will discuss with you how to move forward with that. And then finally, we will discuss our CCIM4C Summit as well as the breakout sessions that you will have. Here are the final deliverables and their associated due dates, so you have them in this PowerPoint as a reference. But we'll also talk about today how you have a lot of resource materials on the CCIM4C website, and it will be updated continuously for you to be able to get those deliverables in on time. Many of these you've been working on now for the better part of 18 months, so these shouldn't be a surprise to you. The first two final deliverables are your theory of change and your BHAG slide. You've turned in several drafts of these. Now is the time just to finalize them. Why the due date is so quickly, as Carrie will explain, we are going to have these designed and then printed as posters to put up at the CCIM4C Summit. So this will be a great way for you to share your work, not only with the Cohort 2 CCIM4C communities, but also the wider swath of conference attendees. The ecosystem with the value statement, again, you've been working on the value statement since day one. Your ecosystem you already turned in drafts of is due March 22nd. The sustainability module, that's the only new piece that we're talking about here, will be due April 12th, so one of those last things due so we can get that finalized and have everything in order before April 30th. And you'll learn more about that today. And then, of course, those strategic plan maps and strategy proposal forms. Some of you already have at least one or maybe two strategic plan maps and strategy proposal forms finalized because that's what you used your implementation funds for. Of course, we know that things change from the time you receive that funding until now. So if you want to update those, that's fine and completely okay as you move forward. At this time, I'm going to hand over to Carrie, and Carrie is going to discuss the resources available to help support you in meeting these deadlines.
Thanks, Holly, for the quick overview of our final deliverables. Many of you have already received and looked at the email that I sent, including our resources for the final deliverable, but I'm going to walk through those pages today just so everybody knows what the resources look like, what's on there, and how to get additional help if you need to do so in the process. So the one-stop shop for your final deliverables materials is going to be the Collective Impact website. We thought it was easier just to put all the materials up on the website so you could access them at any time. Your project team could access the resources as well. And we didn't have to send a bunch of files and videos over email, since we know some emails have limitations with file size. So this was just a good place to put all of our resources. I've included the website link here, but there is also a direct link to that final deliverables webpage. And if you prefer to go to the website and actually see where the final deliverables webpage is, it is under the CCIM4C communities, communities funded in 2017, since this is our Cohort 1 communities. And then final deliverables is right under training and materials. So what are you going to find on the final deliverables webpage? Well, each deliverable will have its own page. So the theory of change, BHAG, ecosystem, sustainability module, and the strategic plan maps will all have its own page describing what you need to do in order to turn in that deliverable. And this is what it looks like on the web page. Each page is over here in the left-hand navigation menu. So when you arrive at the page, this is what it will look like. There won't be a red box over to the left side. I just drew that on here so everybody was aware how to navigate between the deliverables. And then each page is also going to include the following information. So it'll start with an overview of what the product is, and then it will describe the task. Most of the time, this will include a how-to video with the slides, so you can access those videos at any time. They were filmed asynchronously. For the ecosystem with value statement, there will probably just be detailed instructions, since we did already film an ecosystem video for this particular project that you can go back and refer to. Each page will also include the due date and submission instructions, any templates that might be needed to turn in the final deliverables. I know that many of you probably already have various versions of these saved, and you don't necessarily need the templates to start from scratch, but just in case you might have lost your theory of change template, or you just can't find a specific template, they will be linked to on each page. The drop-in call schedule will also be included with the connection information. So we won't be sending out additional resources on the drop-in calls or materials. You'll just have to go and check the web pages to know when those drop-in calls are going to be occurring. And we have 2 to 3 drop-in calls for each deliverable scheduled. So we've been holding our theory of change drop-ins. I believe the BHAG drop-ins have begun, and then pretty soon here we're going to ramp up with the other 3 deliverables drop-in calls. And then on each page, it also includes any additional resources that might be helpful when completing that deliverable. This might include content that is located on other pages of the website, and it will take you there. Sometimes it is our virtual learning community recordings where we may have shared drafts, or there was additional information shared on that. So I know for the ecosystem, we're going to share the December virtual learning community, since you all shared your progress on your ecosystems on that particular learning community. So now I'm just going to walk you through what each section looks like. This is just the theory of change screenshots that I took directly from the website. Each one will be very similar. So this is just the overview. And then as you scroll down the page, you'll see the task. You'll see exactly the instructions of what you need to do, and then the how-to video and the slides for that video. Further down the page, you'll see due dates and submission instructions. I do want to point out that the email that you're going to be sending your final deliverables to is different than what you normally turn in. So I know normally we turn everything into my ohio.edu email, but for this purpose, we are going to send everything to that CCIM4C deliverables Gmail account, so that our team all has access to the final deliverables, and we can make sure that everyone's in the loop. So please be aware of that small change when submitting your final deliverables. And as Holly said, the first two, Theory of Change and BHAG, will be presented as posters at the CCIM4C Summit. So that due date is very important to give our graphic designer enough time to turn around those products and make sure that they look good and professional for the summit. As you scroll down the page, you'll also see the templates, and any templates will appear in a blue button like this and either take you to another page that has the templates or download the template right there from the web page. And then finally, you'll see a resources heading, and under that heading will be any drop-in calls that are scheduled. So you'll see our 3 drop-in calls for the Theory of Change, and then the connection information. And then if there's any additional resources to connect you with, they will also appear under this section. So this is just a quick status check of where all these final deliverables are in the process. Again, I'd like to reiterate that everything is going to be posted on the website. We're not going to be sending this information out via email, so please check the website first. If you can't find something or you're having issues, feel free to reach out. I know Miriam reached out to me last week and yesterday saying that one of the links had a password protected sign-in on it, so we took care of that. So it should be good to go. But if you run across any of those issues, please let me know so that we know that you're getting access to the resources that you need. So the Theory of Change and BHAG slide, all the content is up and ready. You've received emails telling you that those materials were posted, and those are both due March 6th. The Ecosystem with Value statement, that's going to be due March 22nd, and like Holly said, I'm sure you all have pretty good drafts of those after that December webinar and working on them for a few months. And I believe everyone has a finalized value statement, so that should be a pretty quick turnaround for that one as well. And the materials for that will be posted to the website at the end of February, so this week. The sustainability module, which you are going to learn a little bit more about today, those materials are also ready to go and will be posted again sometime this week. And that won't be due until April 12th. And then finally, the strategic plan maps and strategy proposal forms, our final deliverable, is also due April 12th, but those materials won't be out until about mid-March, since we're still working on those materials and making sure that we have everything that you need to know to get those done. So at this time, I'm going to stop and pause and see if there's any questions on the final deliverables. All right, hearing none, I'll let you ponder that for a while. If you do come up with any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box and we'll circle back around and make sure to answer those as we go through our virtual learning community. But right now, I'm going to turn it over and we're actually going to have a little conversation in the chat box, or feel free to unmute your phone about where each community, where you feel like you are on these final deliverables. And I see Elaine and Hamza typing, so I'll take a quick pause here before turning it over to April. Elaine asked if all the strategic plan maps and proposal forms are due or just the funded strategic plan. So in total, you're going to have your 5 strategic plan maps you are not required to turn in your BHAG strategic plan, since we are having you do that BHAG slide in the proposal form for each of the strategic plan maps as well. I see Susan typing. Susan, looks like Lawrence County is hard at work on reviewing that BHAG slide. And it looks like they're also reviewing their outcomes for the theory of change. So Lawrence County is getting a good start on those first two deliverables that are due, and that's actually a perfect segue to hand over to April to check in on how others are feeling about this process.
It really is perfect. Thanks, Susan. That was a great segue. So what we would like to do now is have a little kind of voting process, but also feel free to unmute and, speak about where you are on each of these 4 things. So because we've been working on the theory of change, the BHAG slide, the ecosystem and value statement, and your strategic plan maps and proposal forms for a while now, some of them for the whole duration of the project, we want to check in on these deliverables and see where you are. So we're going to ask this question of each of those 4 things. And we're giving you the options to talk about what kind of road you're on. So for example, I won't speak for Susan, but since Susan mentioned that they were working on their BHAG slide and reviewing their theory of change shortly, I would imagine that they don't feel like they're completely off-road. So that would be option 5. Off-road would be, we're not sure where we are. We're not sure where we're going. We feel like we maybe need some help in this area. And then option 4, we have an ancient one-line cobblestone street to signify that, it's a really bumpy road and there are some hurdles perhaps in your way. Both of these options would be a good signal to us that maybe we need to reach out, or maybe you can reach out to us to let us know that you need some assistance. Option 3 is a traffic jam kind of road where it seems like maybe progress has halted. It's not so much that you don't know where you're going or there's big hurdles, but maybe, you're stuck right now working on other things and you just need to get back to this, or progress has halted and these due dates may help hopefully speed things up. Then we have option 2, a winding country lane. So you're working on it, you're going in the right direction. Maybe progress is just a little slower than option 1, where we're calling it the German Autobahn. You're going quickly, you're ready to approach those deadlines and meet all those deadlines that Carrie just talked about. Seems easy because you're on the Autobahn, you're speeding through. So the first one we wanted to ask about was what kind of road you're on in regards to submitting your theory of change by March 6th. And if you could type your county name and your option in the chat box, and then like I said, feel free to unmute and discuss as well. And we have lots of people typing, which is great. One and 2 from Leanne and Tony. Those are good places to be. Kylie also says a 2. Barbara says 3. Feel free to unmute and tell us a little bit about why you're picking any of these options. Lorain County's also a 2. Ashley's got Morrow at a 2. Judy says Wayne's at a 3 due to the SOR cures distractions. Thanks for being honest and letting us know, Judy. Hopefully you can get back, get out of that traffic jam. Miriam says Ashtabula's at a 1, which is great. Susan says she's at a 3 on theory of change. And Lawrence. And Jody and Christy wanted to know, state that they're at a 2, but have a question about the 3 different templates on the websites for the theory of change and which one they should be submitting.
April, I can field that one. This is Carrie. You can use any of the templates. One of them includes examples and the data tabs. Another one is just the data tabs with the theory of change. And then finally, one is just that theory of change document. So all we really need is what would have been tab 7 in some of the Excel files, but just that theory of change. We don't need your data included as well. But the other tabs were included just to help you organize your data for your theory of change. Does that help, Jody and Christy? Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. So it seems like overall everyone's in a 1, 2, or 3. Our hope is just that if you are in a 3, you can, shift your priorities around. We understand the trouble putting different things at different times in the forefront of your mind. And we just hope you can get these deliverables in by March 6th. If there's any reason that you need assistance in the theory of change, please let us know. There are also drop-in calls listed on the website. I see Amanda typing, so before I talk about, okay, thanks Amanda for that 3. So then we're going to ask the same question about, I think Ruben was going to lead this discussion, but I'll go ahead and introduce that. We're going to talk about the BHAG slide in the same way. So you could enter a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for your BHAG slide. And I'm going to put a little separator here so we know which one we're talking about.
So it's actually Dana. Ruben's on the call and we'll jump in as needed, but using the same criteria that April just shared with you to kind of, we're asking you to think about those and just rate the progress and where you feel like you are on finalizing your VHAG slide by March 6th. And I think I'm picking up with, is it Leanne? April, was Amanda's the last one on your part?
Sorry, I didn't realize you were asking me, Dana. Yes, I think Claremont, Leanne was answering to the BHAG as well.
Okay. So that's great, Leanne and Claremont. They're feeling like they're on this German Autobahn and they're moving straight ahead. Our partners in Lorraine, Elaine, and Hamza are also feeling good with moving ahead. They're moving down a winding country lane, but they're moving forward. As April said, please also feel free to unmute and share some of why you are rating how you're doing on finalizing your BHAG slide. Kylie and Muskingum also a 2, so it looks good. I feel good that most of you are feeling, like you're on a 1 or 2 track to getting it done. Tony also a 2 in Fairfield. Susan, who has already shared a little bit about her progress on this, and indicated she has no critical changes. So she's also rating her progress a 2. Ashley and Morrow, a 2. And then Clark is a 2 on this one, almost there. And this is Amanda, almost there, but just distracted recently. And I'm wondering, Amanda, if you might take a moment to open up your mind, or if you feel comfortable there to talk about your distraction, and no pressure if you don't. Just wondering if there's, and she's typing, so we'll give Amanda a moment to type. I just want to, while Amanda's doing that, add that as Carrie shared earlier, we'll have office hours. We had one yesterday. We have another scheduled for tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time, and you guys have the information on that. So that's another opportunity if you have questions, or if you'd like to discuss anything related to your VHAG slide. That's another opportunity for you to join us and to get some questions answered. And Amanda indicated that she hasn't called in, so Tracy, you may be able to verbally speak on this. And it looks like Amanda's still typing. She said primarily they've been spending a lot of time focused on SPMs and getting data aligned in those areas. So it's not that necessarily the VHAG has been a challenge, it's just that they've prioritized other things. So we understand that, Amanda, and if you get to your VHAG and you still have questions, so please feel free to join us for office hours, or to reach out to us with an email. We've had some folks send us slides to take a look at and provide feedback on, and we're willing to do that as well. So thank you all for sharing. Thanks, Amanda. Great. Thank you all for sharing where you are and how you feel about finalizing your VHAG slide. And we feel good about the progress you're making. So thank you.
Thanks, Dana. So this is Carrie again, and we are going to talk next about that third deliverable, which is the ecosystem and value statement. So I put a divider in the chat box, just like April did, and we're going to ask you the same question to rate where you feel like you are at this point in time to getting your ecosystem and value statement done by March 22nd. And even though the materials are not up at this time, I will just verbally let you know that your ecosystem is what you've been working on for quite a while. I know before I left on parental leave that we were working on ecosystems, and I saw that everyone had a great draft at the December webinar. So it's really just finalizing that ecosystem and then adding that value statement to the top of the ecosystem page. And I think everyone had a finalized value statement as well. So that's kind of what the task will be, a little preview for the materials that are coming out. So I see a lot of ones, which is great to see. People are flying on this one. Couple twos in there. Amanda, another one. And it looks like Barbara is also typing in their current status. Oh, maybe not. So it looks like people are really flying on this one, which is great to see because this will be your next deliverable after those first two. So, you know, this will be due the Friday after the summit. And I know that a lot of our Cohort 2 communities that are going to be at the summit are really interested in your ecosystems and value statements and what you've been doing for the last 18 months under this project. So it's great that you feel you're on that German Autobahn, or at least the winding country lane, so you can field some of those questions from your fellow communities and get those deliverables in by March 22nd. And I see Barbara is still typing, so I'll give her just a second before we move on from the ecosystem. Barbara said she missed the last face-to-face and the rest of the core teams at Legislative Advocacy Day, and she's trying to catch up and bring info back for the meeting on Thursday. So Barbara, do you have any specific questions now that we could help you with, or would you feel comfortable just sharing this webinar afterwards with the rest of your team? Barbara said she's going to get all the details for deadlines and expectations and share to have everything ready. That's great, Barbara. Thanks for taking that information back. And like I said, this webinar, this learning community, and the website are great resources to also share with those core members that couldn't be here today. And Judy agreed that Legislative Day was also keeping some other people from attending. Yeah, this is a busy time of year for everyone, especially with the new administration taking over and working through a budget. So I know these times are very important as well. It looks like Judy is typing again. And Judy liked the opportunity to revisit the theory of change slide. It was a good opportunity. Yeah, it's great to revisit some of these areas that we started the project out with, and we've revisited quite a few times, but going back and at the end of this project, looking back at the work and how far you've come is a really great place to reflect in a document and to just see how many partners you've added, where your goals are, where you're headed. It's a great vision document to carry forth into implementation and past this project. So thanks, Judy.
Yeah, thanks everyone for sharing out on that. The last one we wanted to touch base on was the kind of road you're on with regard to your strategic plan maps and strategy proposal forms. So these are due on April 12th. We have a little more time for these, but we have been working on these since the beginning of the project initiative. So hopefully we are not too far off, but let us know and let us know how we can help you. I see some typing. And again, feel free to come off mute if you want to elaborate at all. Leanne's up there at a 2, which is good. Kylie's at a 2 as well. Ashley at a 2. Everyone's at a 2. Great. Oh, good. Jody and Christy are at a 1. So everyone seems to be around a 1 or a 2. I see Tracy still typing. Oh, also a 2. Great. So given that you have a little more time to work on these, hopefully being at a 1 or 2 will get you there by the April 12th deadline. And I just want to take a second and thank everyone for that feedback. That's really helpful for us to get kind of, again, a pulse check on where you are in submitting all these final deliverables, since everything's coming due now. And as Carrie said, it is a busy time of year. So thanks for taking the time to tell us where you are. I'm going to switch gears here and talk about the 5th deliverable that will be due, but we haven't introduced yet, and that's our sustainability module. So sustainability is critical for any project, but especially those that initiate from temporary funding. The CCIM4C initiative bases its sustainability planning around evidence-based strategies from experts in the field, which is where this quote comes from as well. The key element of sustainability is providing continued benefits regardless of particular activities delivered or in the format in which they are delivered. So as we move into closer and closer to April 30th and all of these final deliverables are coming due, these are the questions we need you to keep in mind for sustaining this project. What are you trying to sustain? We know that we've talked about a lot of areas related to prevention, treatment, and recovery, as well as your BHAG. So what needs to be sustained? And there are three key thoughts for sustainability around public value, the authorizing environment, and operational capacity, all of which may have slightly new wording when we talk about the sustainability module, but we've been talking about these topics throughout the initiative. When we think public value, think back to your value statement. What evidence do you have that what you're doing is worth sustaining? Why does this initiative, deserve to be sustained? When we talk about the authorizing environment, think about your ecosystem. What institutional support structures or policies do you already have? And what do you need to ensure that you can achieve sustainability? So who do you need to maybe still bring to the table? And then what capacity is necessary to sustain this effort, and where will that capacity come from? We've uploaded, as we mentioned, these materials will be available the end of February. They are available today. If you go under project information, you will see a tab now that says sustainability that talks about these topics. There's also a webinar there that you can watch asynchronously that details how to complete the sustainability module, as well as it talks further about these ideas from experts in the field around sustainability. Also on that page is the sustainability module itself, which is a Word document with key questions, the answers to which will help you frame and plan for sustaining the efforts of the CCIM4C initiative in your community. So we're approaching this a little differently than other learnings. This is an asynchronous training that's available for you online that you can do in your own time. The final deliverables, as Carrie went through with this theory of change slides, will be listed under the sustainability module here in the final deliverables page of our communities. And those tasks will be a little different than some of the other final deliverables just because we're just now introducing the asynchronous webinar on sustainability, but we will include the template here as well and have resources for you. One of which will be sustainability TA. Sorry, skipped a slide. To assist you with these efforts, we're going to hold drop-in calls like we mentioned. And here are the dates and times of those drop-in calls. Tuesday, March 5th from 2 to 2:45, Thursday, March 7th from 2 to 2:45, and Tuesday, March 12th from 1 to 1:45. And we have the number and passcode there. These will also be put up on the website under that final deliverables page. Any questions about this asynchronous learning that we're going to, that is now actually up on the website for you before we move on? Again, you can type in the chat box or feel free to unmute. All right, I don't see anyone typing, so I'll continue to pause for a second, just in case. But I think we can go ahead and talk about our next reminders.
Great, thanks, April. And this is just a reminder that if you need to put in a technical assistance request, if you need one-on-one TA as opposed to just joining one of those drop-in calls, or you really feel like you're off-road, which it appears no one is off-road at this point in time, so that's good to see. But especially with this sustainability module, since you haven't seen the materials or watched the videos yet, please make sure to reach out if needed. So the next thing we're going to talk about is our upcoming CCIM4C Summit, which is on March 20th at the Doubletree in Worthington. And I've included the schedule here just so everyone's aware of what the day looks like. This was taken directly from the Eventbrite website that Prevention Action Alliance put up for RSVPs for the summit. So the day is going to start at 9 o'clock, but from 8 to 9 we will have registration and breakfast. So feel free to come on down and have a good breakfast before heading into the day's events, or just connecting and talking with one another. Since it's nice to see each other from time to time, and I know we'll see each other at the April face-to-face, but of course it's great to connect again in March as well. And then from 9 to 9:45 will be the opening general session, and that's where the department and Dr. Holly Raffel will also be talking about the CCIM4C in Ohio.
And Carrie, Carrie, if I could just interrupt, I think we've had some concerns that I've gotten some emails about. So in that 9 to 9:45 time slot, it is my role to help connect the audience to each of your breakout sections. So I think there's been some concerns about the names of them. We're talking about social determinants of health. We want our name changed, et cetera. And I want to assure you that it's my role to start and talk about and say, here's what this project is about. What we realized is that, opiate use is a wicked problem in our communities. And then we know that wicked problems need bigger, broader solutions. And so that's why the collective impact model was brought in. And then I'll give a little teaser for the breakout session that we have that's being led by Amanda Lynch. And we'll say, hey, you're going to learn more about collective impact in that session. You'll hear how that can work in communities. And then I'll talk about how during our process, we realized that one of the properties of wicked problems is that wicked problems can either cause other wicked problems, or they're being impacted by wicked problems. And a lot of those are social determinants of health, things like social isolation, things like structural racism, things like homelessness, things like lack of transportation, et cetera. And so you're so lucky that you'll be able to go with our colleagues from Prevention Institute in a breakout session and hear how those social determinants of health are being addressed through the collective impact model. And then finally, I'll talk about how you really need strong leadership, particularly if you're going to take on something broad like what we call the BHAG, which really is sort of a social determinant of health. And we'll hear from a group to talk about leading collective impact efforts. So please rest assured that that 9 o'clock to 9:45 time slot will knit all of your breakout sessions together. I will assure people that they don't need to do them in any particular order, that they all are going to be useful. And most importantly, they're all going to hear from our Cohort 1 communities on how they utilized the tools developed through CCIM4C to help propel their communities forward. So I'm hoping that that will help kind of put aside some concerns. I know a lot of groups were worried that communities would sort of arrive at these breakout sessions and they would be sort of standalone. And hopefully this will assuage your concerns that that 9 to 9:45 time slot, the primary purpose of that is for participants to understand why each of those breakout sessions was created. So I'll pause and see if we have any questions in the chat box, or you can unmute your lines if you have any questions there. Great. Thanks, Carrie, for allowing me to jump in on that. I just had several emails yesterday and today that I wanted to make sure I got to.
Thanks, Holly. I think that's helpful for setting up the day and knowing exactly what that morning session will look like. So after Holly kind of sets up the day and everyone breaks out for their breakout sessions, you'll see that there are 3 time slots for the breakout sessions. Again, it doesn't matter what order people are going in. They're going to get the same information, and there's not necessarily order that needs to happen in order to understand one concept to the next. We will be having breaks in between our breakout sessions, or in the case after the first breakout session, we will have a lunch and networking hour. And then finally at the end, we're going to have evaluations and then our closing. So everything should be wrapped up by 4 o'clock, and hopefully you'll be able to get on the road and beat some Columbus traffic getting back to your communities. So I did want to touch on a couple of logistics before we talk a little bit about what the breakout sessions will look like. And the first thing is that you are already registered, and you should have received email confirmation that you are registered. If you don't think that you received email confirmation or you're just not sure, please reach out to me and I will check with Prevention Action Alliance to make sure that you're registered. The second thing is to feel free to invite others from your community to attend. This is an event that is free of charge, so it's a great way to learn more about collective impact and not have to pay a registration fee. And we're also working on continuing education credits for this summit, so that's another way that people may find it useful to come and get some continuing education credits while learning a little bit about collective impact. And I've included the Eventbrite link in case you want to let others from the community know to register as well. And lastly, just make sure you've made your travel arrangements, and if you're coming from out of town, feel free to book your hotel rooms. The last day for the group rate at the DoubleTree is today, so if you feel like taking advantage of the group rate, go ahead and you can follow this link and complete the reservation process. After today, I believe the group rate would no longer be available. Does anyone have any questions about these logistics for the summit so far? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. So a couple other things that are going to be at the summit. We've talked about our theory of change and our BHAG slide posters. We will have those all designed and printed and ready to go at the summit, so you'll be able to see those and take some pictures beside your posters and check those out. We are not quite sure what the layout for this space is yet, but if space permits, we would like to put some posters in each breakout session room as well, so that the speakers and you as panelists can use those posters when speaking with participants, when answering questions on the panel. It just might be a good way to have a graphic representation of some of the work you've been doing, particularly in Prevention Institute's section with the Thrive factors. It'd be great to have the BHAG slide, and then the theory of change slide would be a great additional resource for Amanda and the communities that are doing the collective impact session. So we will let you know what that looks like when you get there. And then the second thing that we've been talking about is to have reserved seating during our lunch hour. The Cohort 2 communities for the CCIM4C have been really eager to hear from all of you as our Cohort 1 communities, and have been doing the work for the last 18 months. And they've been asking for ways to connect with you, to ask additional questions and to learn about your your experiences and lessons learned along this process. So I would like to pose this question to the group, and that would be if you would consider sitting with a Cohort 2 community during lunch and sharing your experience. So go ahead and type in the chat box whether this is something you would feel comfortable doing, or unmute if you would prefer. And we're just trying to gauge whether this would be a good idea to pair our communities for additional conversation. Leanne said sure, and Elaine, yes. Looks like a lot of yeses and sounding good. Tracy said, why not? Great. So it sounds like everyone's pretty comfortable with this. If you have an issue with it, you can feel free to reach out to me after the learning community as well. But I think this is a great opportunity to share what you've learned. And as Holly says, there is a time to receive and a time to give. And at this point, we're definitely grateful for you to give to these Cohort 2 communities with your experiences under this project. And I'm excited to hear what kind of conversations you have too at lunch. So we'll go ahead and reserve that seating and make sure that you are sat with a Cohort 2 community for that lunch and networking hour. Are there any questions at this point before I move forward? Okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about our breakout sessions. Your session speaker will be reaching out to connect with you and to make final preparations. I know I've gotten a couple emails asking whether people should be all ready to go at this point in time and what's kind of happening with the breakout sessions. So your speaker for your session, so that would be Collective Impact, will be Amanda. The Thrive Factors is going to be Dana, Ruben, and I believe Sheila will be joining us that day as well. And then the leading Collective Impact efforts is Jay, Jim, and Tracy Johnson. So you should be receiving an email very soon, if you have not received one already, to connect with you and make those final preparations. Things you may want to review before the summit is those session objectives and session description. And we'll make sure that those are provided to everyone, probably through your speaker for the session. And these may look different than the versions that you saw at the January face-to-face. We have been working hard to kind of revise and hone our breakout sessions, so just make sure you take a look at those because they may look different. Additionally, things to consider prior to the summit would be what kind of questions the community panel is going to address, and these are questions, a facilitated conversation with your speaker. This is not addressing audience Q&A questions. Of course, we can't anticipate what will be asked then, but it's always nice to prepare when we're part of a panel and know exactly what you're going to be asked. And then another thing to consider would be the logistics of the panel, and this is just ordering of questions, making sure you know which questions are going to be asked to which communities, if you are going to separate those in a way and not have each community answer every question. So these are some things that your speaker will reach out to you and discuss, but just be thinking about in the meantime as well. So I'm going to pause here and ask the group a quick question, whether you have questions about any of the content on this slide, but also what other support you need at this point in time to feel prepared for the summit. looks like Susan is typing. Susan says she just reread Dana's email. So Dana, I don't know if you want to jump on and kind of talk about what you were planning for your group or your email, or whether that you want to keep that in an offline conversation.
Well, I think it aligns the information we shared out about our plans align with everything that's been shared on the call today. We sent another email out earlier today with an example of kind of what we'd like to include for each county in the PowerPoint presentation, which is due a little earlier than their final BHAG. So I think that was a little, we had to add some clarity to why we're asking for that a little earlier than the 6th. And then I have another email actually I've been working on while we've been on the call, on the webinar, that will send out some dates for a potential call for the group. So stay tuned on that. Susan, Tony, Hamza, and Miriam and Pat. So I don't know if there's a specific question you have, Susan, or is that good?
Sorry, had to take the mute off. No, I just need to reread your email from yesterday.
No worries.
But I think a call with all of us would be wonderful.
Yeah, we had talked about that, and I have some dates I'm going to be sending out today for to see if it messes with folks' schedules. So I'm going to provide a couple options.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana, and thanks, Susan, for bringing that up. I think I read your comment as past tense instead of present tense, needing to reread Dana's email. So, has anyone else felt like they need more support in this process or additional resources to prepare for the summit?
Quick question, this is Susan again. I thought we were in Ruben's group. So are Ruben and Dana doing it together?
Yes. So our Prevention Institute team is doing one breakout session together. So Dana, Ruben, and Sheila.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
We like you so much. We like you so much, Susan, that we need all of us to be there to support you.
All right. So seeing no more questions, as you continue on in the planning process and you connect with your speaker and you start to develop your questions, if you have additional questions, please reach out to each other, the other panelists on your community panel, to your speaker. They should have all the information that you need to feel prepared. And if you need anything additional, please feel free to contact me. We want to make sure that when you get to the summit, you feel ready to share your experiences and supported, and that nothing is surprising from our end. So please feel free to reach out. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. David Collins, and he's going to be talking about our next steps and our kind of roadmap forward through the end of this project.
Thank you, Carrie, and good afternoon. In this last segment of the virtual learning community, on your agenda, this is referred to as Roadmap for the Final Push, and just have a couple of slides to summarize some important points. This first slide, Roadmap Scope of Work, this is the, you've seen this a number of times. This was the community scope of work for this initiative, and we just wanted to share this again just to bring that back, to your attention. And as we move forward, we want to, go over these final, some of the final steps that will go into completion of your work. this next slide talks a little bit about the tools, the part of the roadmap that discusses the tools. And, already mentioned has been in detail is the CCIM4C website, on which all of this key information is posted. And then as the second bullet, Carrie detailed this, a lot of this earlier in the resources section of this learning community. And again, just to reiterate, each page includes an overview, the task, a how-to video or detailed instructions, templates, drop-in call information, plus additional resources. And you're encouraged to refer to the website, again, as your first resource, and then reach out for additional guidance as you feel that that's needed. And we're always, wanting to provide you that additional guidance where and when appropriate. This slide, the what and when of the roadmap, this is basically a copy of an earlier slide on the final deliverables that Holly Raffel presented and went over earlier. So all of the due dates are in red, and you just want to give you a look at this again. And you can see we have them grouped by due date. And then the last roadmap slide, what and when. What we did here is we put this into tabular format because we wanted to say, starting with this virtual learning community today, we wanted to divide the remaining deliverables and activities into sort of a staged time frame for you. So we have deliverables with due dates that will be completed after this virtual learning community. That's the first row. And then the CCIM4C Summit, which has been discussed. We have in the second row, a summary of what's going to be a part of that summit. Then the third row is post-summit tasks, and these are the deliverables, again, with due dates. Those are repeated for the deliverables that follow after the CCIM4C Summit, the ecosystem with value statement, the sustainability module, and the strategic plan maps and strategy selection forms. The latter two of those due April 12th. Then finally, in the last row, we have our showing here our final learning community and a little detail on what is going to be a part of that event. And so we wanted you to have, when we send out the documents from this virtual learning community, we wanted you to have this one-page, roadmap that would list things by time frame, due date, and also description of each of the activities of the deliverables. So we just wanted to tie that together using those descriptive slides. The next thing, I didn't know if Carrie, you wanted to talk about this a little bit, the calendars for the CCIM4C and their placement and how people will access those.
Sure. Thanks, David. So in addition to the roadmap, I will be sending out an email after this webinar with that roadmap that David was mentioning. And we will also be returning the CCIM4C calendars. I know it's been a while since we had these in calendar format, but as we started scheduling all of the drop-in calls and the due dates and the learning communities that were going to be happening, we realized that we probably needed to put all the information in one spot so everyone is aware of what is happening on what day. And this resource is just as useful for us on the leadership team as it is for you, I'm sure, to keep everything straight. So this is just a screenshot of the March calendar and what it looks like, but we will have a calendar for February, March, and then one for April as well. And the last thing that we need to do for these calendars is to add the strategic plan map drop-in calls. And I think after that, they are ready to go. So on here, you'll see drop-in calls, due dates are in red, any learning community or required training is in red, so the summit is on there as well. The website final deliverables link is on the bottom. The drop-in call information, so the number and the passcode. And then just that reminder of where to send your final deliverables. So everything will be together in calendar format for you to print out and put in your office or save on your computer so you know when things are happening. So I'll pause here and see if there are any questions about the roadmap that David outlined or the calendars. Miriam was wondering if Cohort 2 is finished the end of April as well. Yes, so they are on the same end date as Cohort 1, so they are doing an abbreviated version of the CCIM4C due to having less time to do so. Cohort 2, just as a quick overview for when you're chatting with them at the summit, they will be completing 3 strategic prevention plans, and they're going to just do the 3 plans in prevention, so demand reduction, supply reduction, and overdose reversal or consequence mitigation. They're also going to select strategies for those 3 plans, and then they're going to be developing a collective impact ecosystem to make sure that they're addressing community trauma in their communities. So they have fewer deliverables due to the shortened time frame, but they are done the same time as you. And I see Judy is also typing. Judy wants to know if there is any expected continuation of CCIM4C, or is this definitely the termination of the grant? I will throw this one over to Holly in case she has additional information, but at this point in time, from my end, I know I do not have any additional information about this continuing on.
Sure, and while I can't speak for the department, I do know that we are working very hard to secure opportunities to keep this moving forward. Also, I know that the strategic plan maps as well as the strategy selection tool were very well received by the department. So I think you will see parts of this will definitely live moving forward. But as we all know, we have a new administration put in place, a new director. We have a budget that needs to be put in by March 15th. So there's a lot of unknowns. But I do think a lot of folks agree on the value of this project moving forward. So we do hope that we can continue to leverage resources to move this forward and also this learning community style forward as well.
Thank you, Holly. And Miriam said this has been an excellent learning experience and process, and we would definitely just like to echo that, that even for the leadership team as well, we've really had a great journey with you over the past 18 months, and we've learned a lot as well. So thank you for your contributions as well. So we are now to the end of our content for today, but we are ahead of time. So, and I know everybody is appreciative of being a little bit ahead of time, so you have extra time to work on all these final deliverables that are going to come due soon. But we do want to make sure we've answered all of your questions and that you are ready to hit the ground running. So I will pause for a second and see if we have any questions before we sign off, or anything that we can help you with once you have all the team together here. And I see Lan has said thank you. We appreciate all the support. I see Susan is typing. We'll give Susan a quick minute to see. Oh, here we go. Susan has said, throughout the past 6 months, Lawrence County ecosystem was our BHAG, Parks Alive. Should we have one for our whole project?
I think that sounds like a one-on-one TA call, Susan. So if you could go ahead and file that for one-on-one, I think that would be good.
All right. Do we have any other questions? I see Judy is also typing now. And it looks like Susan has another ecosystem that they've been preparing. So they've been working hard on that. Judy just said thank you for remaining available for any final questions as we come to the finish line. Of course, Judy, we are here to help you along the way, and we are all crossing this finish line together, so that's exciting once we are getting to the end of this project. Although sad and bittersweet at the same time, I'm sure. So seeing no more questions, we're going to wrap up our virtual learning community a bit early today. As we said before, please feel free to reach out with questions, attend those drop-in calls, make sure to check the calendars for all the dates and information, and of course, make sure you're going to the website to be looking at all of the materials and resources for those final deliverables. We are here to help along the way. And we are very excited to see everyone at the Collective Impact Summit on March 20th when we get to share and celebrate our work thus far. So this ends our virtual learning community for today. Thank you again, and stay safe.